Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to all to the online study program of National University of Bangladesh. Dear students, I am Muhammad Habibur Rahman, lecturer, Department of English at Joshore Government City College, Joshore, continuously with you with online study program. Hopefully, you are following this video class attentively and continuing your study, staying at home. Dear student, during this corona pandemic, National University has arranged this online video lecture for you. And as a resource person, I am here today with my fourth lecture. And in my first three lectures, I delivered lecture on William Wordsworth. Today, I am going to deliver a lecture on the poem "The Rime of the Ancient Mariner" by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. That is S.T. Coleridge. Samuel Taylor Coleridge belongs to Romantic poetry. And this class is for the student of English department and program Masters Preliminary. And the course code 4333103. And the name of course, Romantic poetry. So let's start our main discussion today. At first, I will show you the learning outcome. Today, you will have the introduction to the poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge, the introduction to the poem, the poem, today's poem, the rhyme of the ancient mariner, background of the poem, summary of the poem, subject matters of the poem, theme of the poem, form or writing style of the poem, speciality of the poem, memorable quotations of the poem. This is a huge text, so that is why I will show you today the memorable quotation from here. And at last you will find the new question analysis. So let's start our main discussion. At first, I will show you the introduction to the poet. Today we will discuss on Samuel Taylor Coleridge or S.T. Coleridge. This is the birth and death year. He belongs to Romantic poetry. Basically, he is the greatest English poet of supernaturalism. Supernaturalism is one of the major characteristics of Romantic poetry that I have discussed in my earlier classes. And this belongs to Romantic period in English literature. And Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Wordsworth famous for nature, and Samuel Taylor Coleridge famous for supernaturalism. So, what is supernaturalism? So, supernaturalism is beyond nature, beyond naturalism. So that is not natural but supernatural. So beyond natural or beyond nature, the happening that is beyond natural, that is very much unusual to us. So that will be called supernaturalism. So we will discuss the more later on about it. And basically, he's a brilliant student and a philosopher, and he wrote renowned literary criticism as well as poetry. The criticism, lyrical ballads. In my earlier class in Wordsworth, I also mentioned lyrical ballad. And in lyrical ballads, their rhyme of the ancient mariner was the longest piece of writing. And with this writing he launched the Romantic movement, and his work is very famous in the history of English literature. Now you will show the introduction to the poem. So today we will discuss on the rhyme of the ancient mariner. Here the word rhyme, rhyme means actually the story. And the ancient mariner, ancient, the old, or mariner is a sailor or a businessman in the ocean. So here the rhyme of the ancient mariner. So this is the story of ancient mariner. And in poem actually it is unusual that in a poem there will be a story. But one type of, there are many types of poem, and one is ballad. Ballad. So ballad is a narrative poem. You have heard the classification of poem, that ode or elegy or epic, many other things. And another types of poem is ballad. So ballad is a narrative poem that tells out a story. So this is a ballad actually, and this is a huge text, more than 600 lines here in this poem. So it's very famous poem in the history of English literature. So the poem was published 1798 in Lyrical Blood, and 1798 very important in the history of English literature, because with this year the Romantic period starts. So here, basically, the rhyme of the ancient mariner, you have several hallmarks that would later become the associated with romanticism. So here you will find the elements of supernaturalism, a deep sense of history, lots of dramatic images of nature, formal experimentation, and an interest in conversational language. So there are many romantic ideas or major characteristics you will find in this poem. Now, I will discuss shortly on the context or background of the poem. So, in the basically, this is the poem of Romantic movement, and which developed in 19th century. 19th century in response to the age of enlightenment. Basically, the age of enlightenment is called the neoclassical period. Before Romantic age. We have the Anglo-Saxon period at the very in the English history. You should know the history. The in broader sense, at first you will have the Anglo-Saxon period or Old English period, then Middle English period, and then you have the Restoration period, and then you have the Neoclassical period. And after Neoclassical period, you have the Romantic period, then Victorian period, then Modern and Postmodern. So the age of enlightenment basically belongs to a neoclassical period, and in neoclassical period or age of enlightenment thinkers, they are 18th century, they have they placed reason above all else. So reason or logic is the main document or ornament for the poet of enlightenment, that is neoclassical age. But after enlightenment age, romantic age begin, and in romantic age you will have the emotion, an emotion of her reason, and emphasize glorification and appreciation of nature. So region is very important for age of enlightenment, that is called neoclassical period. But here in romantic period, this is different from that neoclassical period, and for the emotion, for the imagination, and imagination and appreciation of nature, that is found in this poem. So this poem is the testimony that starts the romantic movement, and that is lyrical blood. It is often considered a signal shift to modern poetry and the beginning of British Romantic literature. And you will find here the poem is not placed any specific time period, though it is heavily invested in romantic ideas. So that type of writing will be the everlasting or very famous. That will be time tested. There will be no time bounding of any writing. So that times that writing will be famous or everlasting. So this rhyme of the ancient mariner, that kind of literature that we find in English literature. So this poem works as one of the catalyst of major shift in history of English literature. So this poem is very famous, not because for the story, but it senses or the shifts the history of English literature, that is neoclassical age, from neoclassical age to romantic age. So that is why the background of the poem is very significant. Now I directly go to the story or summary. The poem is very long. You have more than 600 lines. So that is why I have no opportunity to show you the text, full text. So here I will show you the story or summary in short way. So at first in the poem, it is very much dramatical way. The poem starts, there is a flashback. So start the poem will start the ancient mariner, that is the old ancient mariner, stops one of the wedding guest, and wedding guest, the marriage guest, and he basically feels like narrating his story to him and sharing his griefs. So the poem start like this. So the poem starts at the end of the life of ancient mariner. So everything has happened with the life of uh, ancient mariner. So the poem starts with the end days or the old days of ancient mariner, and then he will tell his story that happened in the past with the wedding guest. So this is the that will be the flashback. Flashback, another technique of narrating a story. So the wedding guest does not have the time and is in a hurry as he has to attend the wedding party. So that is why wedding guest, he has the hurry, and that is why he is not willing to listen the story from the old mariner. But the bright-eyed mariner makes the wedding guest weak and convince. He is able to convince the wedding guest to listen his story, and he is left with no opinion but listen to his tale. He hear the wedding guest. The old mariner starts talking about his story and their ship. This is the beginning of the story from here. What happened in the voice of the old ancient mariner. So from here, the story begins. Their ship had left the harbor happily. So at first, ship starts or bounds for sea happily. Then there was a severe storm and it pushed them southward. So this is the symbolic image, I think. So after bounding for the sea, there was a severe storm and the pushed them southwards. But their direction was not there. Then the weather became very cold and both snow and mist. There is a snow and mist, and the ship gets bordered by huge icebergs that are as high as a flagpole. Yeah, this is the imagery. There is a huge iceberg. You can remember the Titanic, Titanic movie. There you have the huge iceberg. So like this, the like bar, here iceberg he found, or the ship gets stopped. Then comes the albatross from fog. So that times, that time of measure is there. They find albatross. That is albatross, is a symbol of good omen, a symbol of good things. The sailor shares it as a Christian soul. So here you will find the symbolic things. So albatross is a use of symbol, and it is a testimony, or is the symbol of God actually. The elevator's entry is considered auspicious as it brings a favorable south wind. So after coming the albatross, their misery is somehow over, and then they have the south wind. And that times without the south wind, there is no chance to move the ship on the ocean. So that is why south wind is very important, or was very important at that time. So after coming the albatross, uh, they they are overcome their miseries for the time being. Then the sailors give food to it, and it flies over the ship. In irrational feat, the ancient mariner kills the albatross with his crossbow. So here, this is the main incident happen. So this is the climax actually. Climax, story in story there is a climax, the rising up and rising of the story. So here, at first they love the albatross, but whimsically, suddenly, the mariner, or very dramatically, mariner kills the albatross. So that is very sorrowful, and that is very punishable act that committed by the old mariner. And the fellow mariner starts cursing the old mariner as he killed an innocent and suspicious bird. And that is why the other, other mariners also curse or rebuke the old mariner as he killed the innocent bird, this pious bird, or the holy bird. Or this is a very sad incident, I think. The weather gets worse, and for this misdeed and for this sin, actually this is the one kind of sin, to kill the innocent bird, and that is the testimony of God he kills. So that is why the weather gets worse. Now the punishment will be started. The mariner then sends their opinions. Now they think that the killing of the albatross was justified as it had brought mist and snow. So here, actually, the other mariners also misunderstood the albatross, but he should understand the albatross. But later on, he will understand about the, or they will understand about the albatross. Then sadness prevails all around. So there is a cards, this is the punishment starts. So committing crime, we have the punishment. So this is the punishment you will find. The sun becomes too harsh and the ocean starts rotting. So this is the way of punishing from the god to kill innocent creature. Sorry. Then the wind stops blowing and the sails gets dropped down. So here, without wind, it is not possible to move the ship on the ocean or sea. The ship gets stuck at one point and doesn't move ahead. And it looks like someone has painted a ship on a painted ocean. So this is the another imagery. You may it's a very memorable or significant description if you go through the text. So that times you will have the chance to enjoy this painted scenery or ship on the ocean. And there is water around, but the sailor don't have a single drop of water to drink. So here is the reference from the text. Water everywhere, all the birds did sing, water everywhere, not any drop to drink. Very memorable, or actually it is a symbolic or ironical, because you have water, you have everything besides you, but nothing to do with that. So you have a huge water, but there is no water to drink. So like, polluted river, in Dhaka city there is a river, or in our country there is a lot of rivers, but they are polluted. Dhaka city there is Buriganga river, and but a lot of waters there, but no drop of waters to drink that can quench your thirst. So this is the very irony, irony of secession actually. This is the literary term, another literary term. You should know literary term. If you understand, if you want to understand the literature, so that times you should know, or you should have the understanding of her literary term. So without understanding the literary term, it is so impossible, or it is not possible for you to understand a poem or reading text. So that is why I will advise you to, at first, before going to understand any poetry, you should have the clear concept on literary term. In class, we have very limited times, only 40 minutes. So that is why in this 40 minutes, it is not possible to deal with all the text or literary term. So that is why I have to be short, or any teachers has to be short. So here, the writer says there is a water around, but sailor don't have a single drop of water. The sailor then see in their dreams that a spirit was cursing them. So this is the cursing. So he commits sin. Now he gets punishment. So if we commit sin, that times we will get punishment. So this is the very universal theme, or the core theme, I think, of the poem, or moral. So story has a moral, like a fable. The rhyme of the ancient mariner here, another next storyline. The ancient mariner floated on the ocean in his company, but unable to pray. So there is no opportunity to pray now, because this is the time of punishment. One night he noticed some beautiful water snakes, and the sight of the creature brought him brought him extraordinary joy, and he blessed them without meaning to. And when he was finally able to pray, the albatross fell from the neck and sank in the sea. And he could finally sleep and dream of water. So here, this is the indication of redemption. After getting punishment, and here there is another shift of the story, because when the mariner sees the water snake, that times he has the blessing, or he has the extraordinary joy to see the water snakes. So water snakes are another symbol of God here. So that is why whenever we have the pity, or we have the blessing for the creator of God, so that times God will be very much merciful to us. So this is the another moral or lesson of the story. So this is the very moral writing or moral poem you will find here. And after then, basically, albatross fell from his neck. It means after killing the albatross is fallen on his neck. This is the punishment. Actually, this was the punishment for the mariner. And then it sank into the sea. Actually, this is the supernatural. This is the indication of supernatural things. And finally, he can sleep and dream. Then when he awoke, it was raining, and an awesome thunderstorm began. Then another things, the thunderstorm began, and he drank his fill, and she began to sail in lieu of wind. So after thunderstorm, so here there is a chance to drink, and she began to sail in lieu of wind. And then the dead sailor suddenly arose and sailed the ship without speaking. So this is the theme of supernaturalism here. After killing the albatross, all other sailors or all other mariners died for due to the curse of the spirituality or divinity or God. But here we will find that suddenly the mariners, the dead sailors, suddenly arose. So this is the supernatural, and without speaking, but they have no speech in their mouth. They sang heavenly music. Actually, this is the basically they died, but here this is the supernatural things. This is the example of supernatural things. So it is not possible after death. No one can speak, or no one can walk, or no one can sing. But here the writer shows that the dead sailors sang heavenly music, which the ship's sails continued when they had stopped. So this is the supernatural things. Once the ship reached the equator again, the ship juttled, causing the ancient mariner to fall unconscious. And in his unconsciousness, he heard two voices discussing his fate. So these two voices are also supernatural. This is invisible actually. So here also a ship reached the equator. Equator, this is the line, the imaginary line of the world. That is the middle point of the world, and the same distance from the two pole or two hemisphere of the world. So this is called equator. So here the ship is, and it's stopped. So this is the last slide for the story in short in the poem. So here you will find, then they said he would continue to be punished for killing the albatross, who was loved by a spirit. Then they disappear. So that two invisible soul or person, they would continue to punishing, to killing for albatross. So this is the supernatural actually. When the ancient mariner awoke, the dead sailors were grouped together and all cursing him with their eyes once again. And suddenly, however, they disappeared as well. So this is also supernatural, here. So here, so basically, you may have the question that a mariner killed the albatros, but all other company of mariner died. But why not mariner? So here, actually, this is the punishment of mariner, because when you are the leader, and then you have the citizen, or you have the company, or you have the familial member when they died. So that times you have a huge sadness, and we know that after death we have nothing to do, we have nothing to have the punishment. So living sometimes more punishable than death. So here the mariner has that type of situation. So that is why this is the punishment. So all other mariner or other company, died, but not mariners, in the eye of mariners. So this is the very much heart-rending, and this is very much hurtful. And this times we may have the things of suicide. The person who commits suicide, so there to them the living is more difficult or punishable than death. So here, ancient mariner, the situation of ancient mariner is like that. And and it is also supernatural things, a super example of supernatural. Then the ancient mariner was not relieved, because he realized that he was doomed to be hunted by them forever. So here you will, this is the end of the story, and continuously the mariner will be hunted, or will be touched by the story, or touched by the incident happen, and that is why he has the mission to tell his story, that what happened, that he commits crime, then he have the punishment. So this is the moral, I think. So we should not do any commit crime with the innocent creature of God. So now I will show you the form or style of the poem, Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. Here over 600 lines, and it's mostly written in traditional ballad. Ballad. You may have the brief question: what is ballad? So ballad is a narrative poem. There are lots of poem. Epic, lyric poem, narrative poem. So ballad is a narrative poem that tells a great story through dialogue and action. And stanza, a series of 4 line. Yeah, the poem is very much uniform. So I will request you to go through the text. There you will find the 4 line verses, a very much uniformed line. The first and third of which are written in iambic tetrameter. Iambic, unstressed level, foot, and tetrameter at 4 feet. And the second and fourth lines, there you will find the iambic trimeter, 3 foot there, and unstressed and stressed syllable. So this is very uniform, and all the lines, all the stanzas, and 625 lines are in the same way. So this is very much a very good style, or very significant style I have ever seen in English literature. The poem is basically divided into 7 parts that are written in dialogue form, which is occasionally descriptive comments added by the poet. So there is a dialogue, there is a story of the poem. Now I will show you the theme of the poem, or subject matter. So here you will find the main theme, or the main moral, that is sin and punishment, or crime or repentance or punishment. And then sometimes you will have the redemption. In the, I have already discussed that committing crime, the mariner kills the albatross and he has the sin. Then after committing crime, there is a curse from the god, and then all the company, or all the mariners died, except mariner, because to give him punishment. So this is very important things, I think. So this is the major theme: sin and punishment. So here you will find that in the context of the spirituality that pervades the poem, the mariner's history can be seen as the sin, penance, the punishment, and the redemption. In shooting the innocent albatross, he commits a sin. So this is the sin, shooting the elephant, or killing the albatross. And albatross, this is the seabird, actually, the big bird, seabird, and sin, and against both nature and God. Albatross actually the symbol of nature and God. And since one is the expression of the other, the mariner then punished, and he suffered deprivation and horror until he learns to appreciate and love the natural and supernatural world, and finally gets redemption. So here you will have the main thing, I think: sin, then punishment, and then finally he have the redemption, when he have the love after punishing, when he learns to appreciate or love natural things, so that times he get the recovery or redemption. So this is the, I think, main themes. Supernatural, I have already discussed supernaturalism, that is something above the beyond. So here is the definition of supernaturalism: so beyond what is natural and which cannot be directly explained by known laws and observation. So Coleridge is the poet of supernaturalism par excellence, and made supernaturalism suggestive and psychologically defined. And the supernaturalism is not only the apparent the supernatural, but it becomes an object of reality. So that is why the poet achieves this by skillfully blending the reality and imagination. So here you will find not only supernatural, but you have the suggests the reality and imagination, the blending of reality and imagination, and that is why the poem is very famous in the history of English literature. So you have the supernatural element events in the poem here, with the appearance of the ship and its crew. Here this is the elements: the death and life in death you will find, and automatically falling down the dead body of the albatross in the sea from the ancient marinerics, the moving of the ship upon the sea without wind, so without wind the ship moving, so this is also supernatural. The two voyages are talking to each other and end with the leaving the corpse by troop the angelic spirit. So I have already discussed it. This is the poem: alone, alone, all the alone, alone on a wide, wide sea, and never a saint took pity on my soul in agony. So this is the reference from the text. So this is the stanza. You have the four line stanza here. So yeah, here basically, so this is the theme of alienation or supernatural things. This is the picture here you also find. So here the writers, after committing sin or killing albatross, now he is alone, and there is no chance to have pity for his soul that is full of agony. So if you commit crime, so that times you will have no chance to have the pity from God or the saint. So such type of feelings the poet mentions here. So another important theme, that is allegory of guilt and regeneration. Allegory. What is allegory? Basically, allegory is a literary term and or is a narrative style where meant that meets eyes and ears. It carries a second meaning. Actually, in allegory, there is a second meaning along with the surface of the meaning. This is the poem of imaginations. The rhyme of the ancient mariner, but with the side by side the uh, killings albatros here, this is committing any kind of sin, committing with the nature or the innocent creator of God. So this is the allegory. So side by side the story, you have the another story, another meaningful story. So that times such type of situation will be called allegory. This is the literary device or literary thing. So it is a story within a story. So there will be another story with the sustaining with this existing story. The underlying story always has a moral significance. Inwardly, it might have a moral end in view. In this story, there is a another name in the Gulliver Travels also allegorical, because with the story of Lilliput, it mentions the people of England. So like this, and um, outwardly it ought satisfy the literary arts in the reader. So in allegorical writing you will have two things: that inwardly you have the moral lesson, and the another world, it also satisfy your literary urges or literary thirst. So rhyme of the ancient mariners is a simple allegory of guilt and regeneration. So you can intermingling this story with any type of sin and punishment, and that suggests that if we commit crime we have the punishment. So innocent mariner killed, here innocent but albatros without any appearance reasons. So it signifies the violation of sanctified relations of host and the guest. So this is the holy relationship of the host and the guest. So host is the mariner and guest is the albatros. But the mariner kills the his guest. So that is why he have the punishment. So for this sinful act of ancient mariner, he had to suffer a lot. But when he had shown the true love to the water snake, he was relieved of the curse, and he had learned the moral lesson that we should love all the creature of God without making any distinction. So I think this is the main story or main theme of the poem. So I need to be fast. So here another transformation, transformation in this another theme. So the key point, I think, so here you will find the mariner's conversion from prideful man to a pious soul. Before killing the albatross, he is very much proud of his activities, but after getting the punishment, then he becomes the pious soul. So that is why now he wants to tells the story, this story, to make the other people understand. The spiritual world also, metaphysical world, that is beyond physical, that is related to spirituality. So in this point we find spirituality, so I have already discussed, so time is very limited now. The natural world, you will find the natural world as suffering and isolation, so everything you will find in this poem. And the pride also, so pride is a very bad things or bad characteristic of human. So that is why the Satan or the Adam and Eve or the crucifixion of Christ. This is the interminglings of the story. So here the mariner also have the pride, and so that is why he has the punishment. So this is the reference from the text: alone, alone, all alone, alone on a wide, wide sea, and never saying took pity, my soul in agony. So we should not have pride. It is a very bad characteristics of human being. It not only emphasize or it not only destroys our mental happiness, but also our physical or the worldly happiness. So limi liminality, so another theme of the poems, actually liminality, here you will find the description. A romantic poet actually liminal spaces, becomes the permanent sense like the ancient mariner. Actually time is going to over, so that is why I have to fast. So here you will have the imprisonment, when killing the albatross, then the mariner gets imprisoned. So this is the another theme of the poem. Act of storytelling, so here you will the another theme, act of storytelling. So this poem tells a story, so this is the another theme. And the man and the sublime, the ordinary or sublime story intermingling, the Christian allegory you have from this poem. So here some memorable quotation. I think the swiftly, swiftly flew the ship, yet she sails softly too, sweetly, sweetly blew the breeze on the alone it blew. So this is the description of nature here, and here I think this is the best stanza of this poem. Here you find he breathed best, who loved best, and all things both great and small, for the dear God who loves us, he made and loved all. So I think this is the moral, this is the main lessons of the story. Here the poet says his praise best, so who love best. So if you love the creator, all things both great and small, if you love all great and small, rich or poor, so that times if you love this great and small, so that times your prayer will be the best to the God, because God love us and he made and love us. So we should not have, we should not make any distinction or disparity between great or small, or rich or weak, or strong, or rich or poor. So if we do such type of things, not to make any distinction between these things, and if we love all equally, so that times our prayer will be the best to the God, because God love all us equally. So this is the very important lessons. Now you will have the a new online brief question. You have one word question. So here some important brief questions I have mentioned here, and that is already discussed. So I think at your home you will find this brief question. And now you have the short question, romanticism, supernaturalism. Okay, so such type of question you will find qualities as a supernaturalism, the waiting guest, ship of death. So you all should try to exercise of this question. So this is the broad question, ancient mariners allegory, punishment. This is the main question, I think. So this is the alternative question also. So you should try to uh, study with the reference of the text. The another one, supernatural elements. So it is also important for you. So this is the source of the collection of the poem. So I think you should exercise it at home. So this is all for today. So my dear student, I think so you will be attentively following my lectures, and I think it will be a great help for you if you study this lecture closely and attentively. So thank you, Fadal, for being with us. So talk with you in the next class. Allah Hafiz.